Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another day of lockdown lessons. We here in the UK have been informed that at some point over I think it's the end of June or the beginning of July, that the lockdown restrictions are going to be eased. I'm sure that's going to provide a lot of relief for a lot of people. I think that the impacts of this period are weighing heavier on us at this point. Of course, it's obviously the right thing to do still, but I know that I've spoken to a lot of people that are suffering from the sense of isolation. So I'm happy to be able to connect to all of you, and I hope that in some way these lessons are providing a nice way of you managing your own situation in yourself and in your external environment. It's a funny time because we can't really kind of plan for the future. We can't think ahead. We just kind of need to continue to check in with ourselves on a daily basis and make sure we're okay. And I think that's the best that we can do right now. So off that topic, on to this week's series that I'm focusing on the external movements of the head and the internal spaces of the head. Today's lesson is going to focus on the movement of the jaw. And I've obviously titled it Opening the Jaw. I was looking for a really good jaws picture to use, but I couldn't find one. So I think I ended up just putting a creature's jaw as the title picture. If you can find a good picture of jaws, send it to me and I will upload it as the thumbnail for this one. So yeah, basically the jaw is an important part of our daily process in terms of eating, and often people have some pain there, and sometimes you might notice if you're eating the kind of clicking or a sort of sense of tenseness in the jaw, and hopefully lessons like these will kind of add to your sense of ease in your jaw, which can give your overall body a kind of sense of relaxation in some way. So the first thing I'd like to do, and it's kind of counterintuitive, I'd like you to come to sitting, preferably with your weight forward on your chair, so that you're resting down on your sitting bones. And then I'd very lightly like you to roll your pelvis backwards a little. To roll your pelvis backwards and back to kind of the middle neutral position. So the feet are on the floor, the knees are staying where they are, and you're just rolling your pelvis away from your legs and then back towards your legs. And if you think of this movement, as you're doing this movement, if these are the legs down here and this is the pelvis, you're rolling your pelvis very gently backwards and then back upright. And what's happening as you're doing that is the angle between the leg and the pelvis is opening. Okay, so that's an important principle initially. We've got that sense of opening between the angle of the pelvis and the leg. And as you do this movement, maybe you can check in with your breathing, close your eyes, see if you can sense into that area, that space, that those joints are opening, the joint between the pelvis and the legs. Good morning, everyone that's watching, by the way. If you want to say anything in the comments, say hi, please do. So you're just gently rolling your pelvis back, and you might be thinking at the same time, like, what has this got to do with the jaw? But in some way, if you think about the two bones that come into the pelvis, the two femur bones, and the hinge joint that they have in some sense, or the movement that you're making now is a hinge movement. So you're opening the pelvis away from the legs, and it's kind of operating like a hinge. Okay, so when you've done that a few times and you feel that that's kind of familiar, just let go of that and keep your eyes closed. Very gently begin to open your jaw. Very gently begin to open your jaw. And when you open your jaw, all I want you to do is move the jaw downwards and then back up. And if you close the mouth, don't kind of press the teeth together. Just bring the teeth back towards each other. Rest for a moment and then do another movement, opening the jaw as far down as feels comfortable to you. You don't need to open it really wide like you're doing a big yawn. Just a small movement of the jaw coming down and a small movement of the jaw coming back up. And as you do that movement, one thing that you could do is you could place your fingers just underneath your ear and see if you can feel the point where the jaw, the lower jaw, meets the skull. So a few times as you're opening your jaw and closing your jaw, just do it slowly, both movements slowly, consciously. You can feel the place where the lower jaw meets the skull. This is the connection point. And you can feel in some way that this again is like a hinge. So as you open the jaw away from the skull, it's like the two shapes. This is the skull and this is the jaw, and they're close together. And as you open the jaw, it opens the hinge. As you close the jaw, it closes the hinge. And when you've done that a few times with your hands, just let go of your hands and see if you can kind of use the internal sensation, the internal feeling of that point where the jaw is meeting the skull. Continue just to open the jaw and close the jaw. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to combine those two things together. So take a little rest. Come back to kind of inactivity for a moment. Maybe bring your attention to your breathing, check in with yourself. And then in a moment, we're going to begin coordinating the opening of the jaw with the rolling back of the pelvis. Okay, so then we're going to be opening the two hinge joints at the same time. And the femur and the pelvis isn't really a hinge joint, but for the purpose of this movement, it's operating like a hinge. Okay, the jaw is a hinge joint. Okay. So when you're ready, begin to roll back the pelvis. Feel the opening movement between the pelvis and the upper leg. And at the same time, see if you can kind of find the speed, find the coordination so that you open the jaw as you open the space between the pelvis and the leg. See if you can coordinate the two timings, the speed of opening or rolling the pelvis back with how you're opening your jaw. Okay, so it's like there's a different speed of opening the jaw and there's a different speed of rolling the pelvis back. See if you can combine those two speeds to make the movement happen together. Like you're unifying two movements. And see if you can kind of like, with your attention, you can rest your attention in the hinge aspect of both areas. How the jaw is operating like a hinge and how the movement of the pelvis is operating like a hinge. The space between your pelvis and your leg is opening. The space between the skull and the lower jaw is opening and closing together. Good. Take a little rest from doing that. take a small rest. Just notice how you're sitting, feel your weight in the chair. And then what we're going to do is we're going to swap over the coordination, okay? So as you open your pelvis, or the space between your pelvis and your leg, you're going to close your jaw, right? And then as you come forwards with your pelvis and you close the space between your jaw and your leg, you're going to open your jaw. Sorry, your jaw and your leg. I said your pelvis and your leg, and you're going to open your jaw. I'm going to explain that again. So as you roll the pelvis back, you close the jaw. As you bring the pelvis forwards, you open the jaw. Roll the pelvis backwards, close the jaw. See again, can you coordinate the timing, coordinate the speed of this movement? So the bigger muscles of the leg are tying in with the smaller, more used muscles of the jaw. I mean, maybe not more used, but it's like we do activities with our jaw in a different way. The timing of the movements of our jaw are different than the timing of movements of our pelvis and our legs. But see if you can coordinate the timings. Again, as you roll forwards, open the jaw. See if you can let the jaw really open as you roll forwards, almost like you want to let it hang. And then as you roll backwards, it's like the rolling backwards and the closing of the jaw happening together. And it doesn't need to be a big movement. You can, of course, go to the end of your range, your comfortable range, but you can do this very small. If you want to find a finer coordination, it's actually better to do a smaller movement. Good. Okay, and take a little rest. And a few times, just open your jaw and close your jaw again, as we did at the beginning, just by itself, without the movement of the pelvis. Open your jaw very lightly. And see, as you open your jaw, does it move downwards in a straight line? Does it veer off to the left or to the right? Good. And the next time you open your jaw, leave your jaw a little open. Leave your jaw a tiny bit open. So there's a bit of space between your upper teeth and your lower teeth. And then very slightly, very gently, begin to slide your jaw like an old school typewriter over to the left. Just slide your jaw a little, can be really a small movement, over to the left and bring it back to the middle. Sliding the jaw a little over to the left and then back to the middle. And notice as you slide your jaw, as you're opening your mouth, you've got your mouth open and you slide your jaw over to the left, how does it feel in the joint? How does it feel in the joint where the lower jaw meets the skull? Because you're making a movement of the jaw that's to one side, and that's obviously going to change the relationship between change the relationship differently on either side of the jaw. Great. Once you've done it a couple of times to the left, come back to the middle, take a little rest, take a pause. And then when you're ready, begin to move the jaw over to the right and back to the middle. Okay, so the mouth is a little tiny bit open and you're just sliding the jaw over to the right and then back to the middle. As you slide the jaw, see if you can kind of like feel that the speed or the kind of the quality of the movement is uniform as you go out and as you come back. You may feel that it kind of jumps as part of the movement, but see if you can kind of like get this sort of smooth movement over to the right and back to the middle. And again, maybe you can pay attention to the feeling in the two different sort of hinge joints in the jaw. What's happening in the left side, what's happening in the right side as you slide your jaw over to the right. Great. Take a rest. We'll take a slightly longer rest. And a few times, just roll your pelvis back. Roll your pelvis back and bring it back to a neutral position. Roll it back and see if anything's changed in that movement. Does it feel smoother, more comfortable? Good. The next time you roll your pelvis back, I would like you to roll back to one side. So you're going to roll back a little to the left side. Okay. Roll back a little to the left side. What's going to happen as you roll back a little to one side, you're going to open one side of the hinge joint. It's not a hinge joint, but one side of the hinge mechanism between the pelvis and the leg. Okay. So as you roll to the left, the right leg is going to open more than the left leg is going to open. Okay. So just do it a couple of times and see if you can feel as you roll backwards to the left, there's a different thing happening on the left side of the pelvis and the relationship with the leg, and the right side of the pelvis and the relationship with the leg. The two sides are opening differently. Good. Just do that movement a couple of times, taking yourself over to the left, rolling backwards slightly so the pelvis rolls backwards towards the left side. Slightly more of your weight comes back onto your left sitting bone, and then come back to the middle. And just do that movement a couple of times. Notice how the right leg opens out. The space between the pelvis and the right side opens more than the left side does. Good. Come back to the middle. Take a little pause. And when you're ready, begin to roll backwards to the right side. Roll backwards to the right side. Again, noticing the space between the left side, the left side of the pelvis and the left leg open. And the right side close a little. They both open slightly because you're rolling the pelvis backwards, but the relationship on either side is slightly different. Just do that movement back and to the right. So more of your weight comes onto your right sitting bone. Feel, if you can, with your eyes closed, feel what's happening in this kind of hinge mechanism between your pelvis and your legs. Good. And then vary. Change from one side, go to the left, come back to the middle, go to the right, come back to the middle. And just feel though, like what's happening in that hinge mechanism, how it's slightly different on either side. Good. Take a little rest. And as you rest, just kind of tune back in with your jaw. Very gently open your jaw again. Very gently open your jaw. Begin to slide your jaw a little to the left. And as you take the jaw a little to the left, can you bring your body weight so that you roll backwards to the left side? Okay, so you're taking your jaw at the same time as you're rolling your pelvis back to the left. And then come back to the middle. Take your jaw to the right. Take your jaw over to the right. At the same time as you roll a little backwards to the right. Okay, and just play with that movement. Take your jaw over at the same time as you're rolling the pelvis over to one side, like backwards to one side and backwards to one side. Whichever side you're going to, slide the jaw like a typewriter with the mouth a little open over to that side. And just kind of get this really nice, smooth, loose movement between both sides. Just do it a few times, kind of like, feel into the movement. What does it feel like to Have your mouth open, your jaw relaxed, sliding it over to the left as you take your body weight to the left, sliding it over to the right as you take your body weight over to the right. Great. Have a little rest from that. Take a moment. Maybe you can notice you tune back into your breathing. If that was difficult for you, notice if your breath changed a little. Great. So we're going to change and we're going to do the opposite now. So as you roll your pelvis back to the left, you're going to slide your jaw over to the right. So you're now doing the diagonal movement, rolling your pelvis to the left, sliding your jaw to the right, come back to the middle, roll your pelvis to the right, slide your jaw to the left. Okay. And this is going to take a little bit of coordination. You're going to slide your jaw to the right, slide your jaw to the left. Coordinate it with the opposite rolling back of the pelvis. Hopefully, if you've done the whole lesson, this is making sense to you. If you're just tuning in, maybe it's a little complicated and you might need to go back to the beginning to follow the pathway of the lesson. So you slide to the opposite side, slide to the opposite side. Just do it a few times. And feel that your jaw can kind of really like follow the movement or even lead the movement. You know, it's like the starting of the movement is led by the sliding of the jaw. And then you could change, and the starting of the movement is led by the moving of the pelvis backwards to either side. Great. Take a little rest. Take a rest. And when you're ready, come back to the middle and just open your jaw a few times at the same time as rolling your pelvis backwards. So you open your jaw as you roll your pelvis backwards. Again, opening the articulation of the jaw, opening the space between the leg and the pelvis at the same time. And see if those two things are more coordinated now than they were when we first did them. Is it easier for you to time the movement, the opening of the jaw with the opening of the pelvis? Again, much smaller muscles controlling the jaw, much larger muscles controlling the pelvis and the legs. Okay, once you've done that a couple of times, just come to rest. Come to rest. Feel how you're resting now in terms of your sitting position. Do you feel that you're kind of sitting more centrally, sitting more comfortably, even sitting more powerfully? Do you feel more active in your sitting than you were earlier? And then move your attention up to your jaw and your face. Just very slowly, very gently open your jaw along the midline again. So you open the jaw downwards and see if you can kind of like keep a really nice quality, a really nice speed of closing the jaw, opening the jaw. And notice if the jaw is opening a little wider now than it did earlier. And notice if there's a different sense of smoothness in the capsule between the skull and the jaw. Or if you've brought that part of yourself, the kind of hinge mechanism, more into your awareness, you're more aware of this place, this in-between place between the skull and the jaw. Maybe you feel that your jaw is resting in a different position, or you're more aware of it in some sense. But I'm putting words into your mouth, and maybe you could let me know if you've watched the lesson, what you found, what you felt, what relationships were interesting to you. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. So that's the end of today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something from it. If you did, and you think other people might enjoy it as well, please head over to my Facebook page, use the video there, and you can click share on it, and you can share that out to your friends and family on Facebook, or you can head over to my YouTube channel. There is a link in the description, and you can share the video directly from YouTube. So both options are available. I obviously really appreciate anyone that, if they found the lesson useful for themselves. If you share them with other people, that obviously helps me as well. Is there anything else I need to say? Oh yeah, also on my YouTube channel, I have now 90 followers. It doesn't sound like a lot, but if I get 10 more, I get to have a custom URL, so I can be YouTube/thoughtful movements. If anyone wants to head over to YouTube and hit subscribe, I would be very grateful. So I hope you've enjoyed the lesson. I will be back here tomorrow, another lesson on this kind of series that I'm exploring the movements of the head, the internal spaces of the head. So I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Tomorrow is going to be a little bit more introspective, kind of similar to yesterday's lesson. I will see you back here at 11 in the morning. Great. I'd love to hear from you as well. Please write in the comments if you enjoyed it, what you found. It'd be great to hear from you. Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye.